Ravens flock. Sometimes in life, events will line up perfectly in your favor, almost as if it was written in the stars for you to win. Like the last 2 weeks for the Ravens, that's exactly what it's felt like. That's exactly what it's been like. Obviously, we had the bye week, and during the bye week, every team we needed to take an L, they took an L. And then even in this week coming back from the bye, we won that overtime game against the Rams. And then the last two teams that were the last three teams that were kind of in the way of us getting the one seed, being the Chiefs, Jags, and Dolphins, they all took an L. And at this point, the Ravens have taken full control of the one seed. And obviously, a lot of people they think about 2019, the last time we had a one seed, but in reality, we all know already that the last 2 years we had the one seed. Obviously, before we started just getting hurt late in the season. But I'm very excited about this. I obviously want to get that one seed. I'm sure many of you do as well. But it seems as though the Ravens flock is pretty divided on getting the one seed. A lot of Ravens fans seem unhappy or uninterested in the one seed, which kind of throws me off because I don't see a reason why we shouldn't take it. And the reasons that I'm seeing people give for why they don't want the one seed, to me, it really just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Like, again, we have the biggest advantage at home. We're averaging 31 points a game at home. We're only averaging 23 points a game on the road. Now, granted, I think we would, whether we're on the road or at home, I still think we could get the job done. But why not give yourself that advantage of being on the road, especially when you got current players like Mahomes and former players like Pat McAfee who are acknowledging just how intense it is trying to play in M&T Bank Stadium. Like that's an advantage that I absolutely want. Also, despite being the one seed, we're gonna be doubted regardless because our franchise quarterback coming off of this big contract is still getting the same criticisms that he's been getting really his whole career, even if this year it makes less sense than ever. Like prior to because Lamar, he didn't have high completion percentage the last two games, but prior to this, and even at this very moment, Lamar is still on pace to have a career year in several aspects. Whether it's a career high in passing yards, a career high in completion percentage. He's 10th in the NFL right now in QBR. He's 7th in the NFL right now in passer rating. And despite this, he's still gonna have that chip on his shoulder because there's still Ravens fans out there right now who will still tell you they don't believe he could throw or win the ball throwing. Even though in that Rams game, he literally led the team on a 13 play, 75-yard drive that included a go ahead touchdown with a little over 60 seconds left on 3rd and 17. But they're still gonna doubt him. So that chip on the shoulder is still gonna be there, especially because I don't think Lamar's winning MVP this year. He's having a great year. He's having a very efficient year. Like I said, in several aspects, he's having a career year. But ultimately, I don't think he's gonna put up enough touchdowns in the last couple weeks to to really cement him in that place. Now, Lamar has a tendency to get really hot with touchdowns. We saw at the beginning of last year, for example, he put up like 14 touchdowns in the first 4 weeks of the year. So it's not like Lamar can't put up a lot of touchdowns in a hurry. But at the same time, I don't think he's gonna catch up to Dak by the end of the year. Like Dak at this point, I think he's probably gonna finish the year with 35 touchdowns. And because of that, I think they're gonna give it to him just because of that stat. Even though in reality, I don't think any quarterback should win. Like my bad for going on a tangent here, but I really think Tyreek Hill is the MVP. But nonetheless, we have a franchise quarterback who, even though in many aspects he's having a great year, he still has that chip on his shoulder. So that's still going to work to our advantage. People have to let 2019 go. Like our wide receivers are better than they were that year. Our offensive coordinator, even though this is his first year, and even though there's certain areas where I think he needs to improve, he's still better than Greg Roman. our young players from back then, like Lamar Jackson and Patrick Queen. Well, no, was Patrick Queen playing? I don't think Patrick Queen was playing that because that was 2019. No, but some of our young players from that era, they're a little bit older now, more seasoned and more battle tested. Even some of the guys we drafted after that year, who have had their ups and downs, like a Patrick Queen, they're more seasoned, more confident, and more battle tested. And then also, you look at our rush defense, even though that's clearly our biggest flaw on this team right now, is our rush defense, which is something we did have in common with 2019. There's no Derrick Henry that we have to worry about. Like, people forget that part of the reason um we got exposed by the Titans that year was because that was a prime Derrick Henry. Like, that was literally Derrick Henry in his prime. Like, he went out there, had like 200 yards. He threw a touchdown. Like the entire team ran through him, and that was him at the peak of his powers. There's nobody in the AFC who we have to deal with this year who's gonna be that much of a threat running the ball. Now, granted, there's teams with good running backs, but what team in the AFC has that sort of game changing, game breaking, borderline MVP running back who their entire offense runs through? Like, name one team in the AFC that fits that description. You have some good running backs, like Travis Etienne's good, DeAndre Swift, Mozart on the Dolphins. You got some good ones, but there's nobody in the NFL right now who's as big of a threat as Derrick Henry was in 2019. So that's also another reason why I think people need to really just let that year go and be optimistic about having the 1 seed this year. And also, there's really no teams in the NFL, whether the AFC or the NFC, there's no teams that are like these offensive juggernauts who are just like, offensive and defensive juggernauts who are just like unbeatable. Every team in both conferences this year have had major questions. When you watch them play, and this is why I definitely do think a lot of Ravens fans should watch other teams play and should watch other content creators who are fans of other teams. They should watch some of their YouTube videos just to study their enemies and see what the temperature is in these other fan bases. A lot of fan bases are panicking. It don't matter how much the media hypes up the Chiefs. Delusional Chiefs fans are starting to get nervous, especially watching Mahomes have a hissy fit on the sideline over a correct call made by the referees. Like, there is no team, even the Niners. You saw that earlier in this year when they didn't have their perfect roster constructed because Debo was down, Trent Williams was down, and Christian McCaffrey, even though he was still getting touchdowns, he was like banged up. All it took was for their perfect roster to have a little bit of injuries, and all of a sudden, the team, they were literally collapsing midway through the season before they corrected the ship. So there's no team that should truly put fear in Ravens fans' hearts. In my opinion, there's no teams this year. We're tied for the best record, and when you look around, we have the most impressive wins of any NFL team. And again, we're the only NFL team who has not been blown out this year. Every other playoff team you look at, including the Niners, they've all had games where they've lost by 14 points, 20 points, 30 points. We're the only team who, not only are we getting dominant wins for the most part, but we're also making sure that we have full control over the game. And on the rare occasions we lost, it was games where you could say the Ravens beat themselves. Like, we have yet to be outclassed despite the major flaws we have on this team. And one last point that I just want to get across is, when fans say they don't want the 1 seed, like I saw some people say that they don't want the 1 seed, but they don't want to lose, but they want the 2. Like, all of this mental gymnastics it seems ridiculous to me. It makes zero sense, because for fans like that who are scared, because that's what they are, like, Like, and there's no shame in that, but that's just what it is for fans like that who are scared. There's no scenario that's gonna play out this last month that's gonna make them less scared. Like, it doesn't matter where we end up in the seeding of the AFC. They're still gonna be scared. So why not go for the number one seed? Because even if you somehow don't get the number one seed, they're still gonna be nervous because here's the thing. If we don't get the number one seed, that means that we would have to, as it stands right now, that means in order for us to not get the number one seed, that means we would have to lose at least 2 out of our next 4 games. So how on earth, if you're not confident now, if you're not believing in this team now, how would losing 2 out of your next 4 games make you more confident? I don't understand the logic in that. Especially when all these teams we're playing are playoff teams. Well, I'm not counting the Steelers, even though technically they're in the playoffs right now. I think they're frauds, obviously, but still, at the moment, they're still a playoff team technically, right? Like, if we somehow dropped 2 of the next 4 games, how on earth would that make you more confident? Like, knock on wood, but if we went to Jacksonville on Sunday night and lost, these same fans would turn around. They wouldn't turn around and jump for joy and say, "Yay, we got we're the number 2 seed and with this." No, they would just turn around and say, "Hey, well, how we gonna win? We couldn't beat Jacksonville." Or if we lost, knock on wood, if we lost to Miami, they would say, "Oh, well, how we gonna beat anybody because we lost to Miami?" Or if we lost to Pittsburgh, it's like, "Oh, well, how we gonna beat the good AFC teams in the playoffs if we lost to frauds like the Steelers?" Or knock on wood, I keep knocking on wood, but still, if we knock on wood, if we lost to the Niners, they would turn around and say, "Oh, well, how are we really contenders and we can't beat other teams that are contenders?" Like for these people, there's no scenario that would actually make them confident this year. So I don't see the logic in saying, "Yo, let's not get the number one seed." Even when people say, "Oh, well, we're not gonna have momentum," that to me, that logic is just ridiculous. At the end of the day, we were rusty in this Rams game coming off a bye, and we still put up 37 points. Even if you don't want to count overtime, in the whatchamacallit, in the first 4 quarters of regulation, we put up 31 points. Again, we're averaging 31 points a game at home this year. Like we've put up 31 or more points in the past 6 out of 7 games. For the better part of 2 months, we've been averaging 30 a game. So to me, the argument of we'll be rusty, even if that ended up happening, I think with games like the Chargers game after getting that 10-day break from playing the Bengals, or games like the Rams game coming off the bye, I think those games prove that even when we come off a long break, even if we come out looking rusty, we still have a good enough roster to pull out wins and regain whatever momentum we already had. So like I was saying, for fans who are still scared, there's no scenario that's gonna calm them down and make them more confident. So you might as well, if you're the Ravens, you might as well try your hardest to win out, get the number one seed, and put yourself in a position where everybody got to come to Baltimore instead of us having to go on the road to possibly play, like, who knows, like the Browns or the Jaguars or the Chiefs or whoever. Like, again, I still am a believer that us getting the number one seed this year, it would not play out the same way it would play out, like the same way it played out 4 years ago. As much as I don't trust John Harbaugh, at the end of the day, he has shown an ability at times to get the team ready for game. Even though we played down to our competition, there have also been games where we played up to our competition, especially when we are the underdogs, which despite being the number one team, we're still going to be that anyway, because even our own fans don't really they really don't think we're for real like that. And when it comes down to it, in the moment of truth, regardless of whatever flaws we have, when it comes to certain players, I just believe they're big enough difference makers to where I got faith that they have a real shot. Whether it's Lamar or whether it's Kyle Hamilton or whether it's Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen or Justin Madubuike. I think our core players on both sides of the ball in the moment of truth, I do have faith in them this year. As crazy as it sounds, I'm way more optimistic this year than 2019. But again, we just gotta wait and see. We gotta wait and see if they step up to the plate and prove that they can get it done. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Do you think that the 1 seed is a good thing for us to get, or do you think that, or do you agree with the other side of the fan base that we should be better off? I mean, we would be better off as a 2, 3, or 4 seed. And let me know, how do you think these last 4 games are gonna play out? Like, do you think we're gonna win out, or do you think we're gonna win 3 or 4, or do you think that who knows? Like, we're gonna drop 2 of these next 4.